Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown!
Yes.
43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, January 25. I hope your week has gone well. You've almost made it to the weekend. So hope we can help you get there a little closer and make it a little smoother for you. Appreciate everybody joining us. As always, Indiana basketball has been off for a while, but lots of other things going on in college basketball, which we'll talk about today. Big news in college football, shocking firing in the NBA, and then also our great lineup, John Boy, who is all on the docket for today.
We will be joined by Shannon Griffith coming up here in just a few minutes, and we'll also be joined by Tyler Smith and Chris Denari in the second hour.
Looking forward to that, talking, and we'll be able to talk to Chris about the Pacers' newest addition in Pascal Siakam. And Tyler has got a great piece out. If you haven't seen it at thehoosier.com, you need to go read it. He spoke with a bracketologist, and they really break down Indiana's chances for the rest of this season, basically on making the tournament, which personally, that ain't happening in my opinion, but we'll get to that later on. Shannon Griffith will join us, and we'll get you caught up on what's going on in the world of college football. Looking forward to that. Last night in the top 10, baby, it's rough. Auburn, the team at Indiana, crushed by however many points it was. They go down to Alabama last night. That was Auburn's first loss since December 3rd. John, when was that in New York? Was that right around then?
It was in Atlanta, I believe, but it was.
Okay. I'm thinking UConn. Never mind. My fault. Too much going through my head.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think I can't remember when the date that they played, but it was right after that.
It was just either December 10th or December 17th because they played Auburn and Kansas in back-to-back games and back-to-back weekends.
That's a long stretch, man. I mean, that's 6 weeks without losing, and that ain't bad. But they had not played a ranked team in that entire stretch. So, winning, they won, so you can't knock them for that. But Alabama's first win over a ranked team this season. So the SEC, you had Kentucky go down the other night. Let's see. In the Big Ten, also, how about Maryland? Maryland has become the team that wins on the road, man. They couldn't buy a win on the road last year, and now they've done it twice. Last night, Iowa. They were at Iowa, and they knock off the Hawkeyes on the road. And even with that, I think Maryland sits at 4-5 in the Big Ten standings right now, but they have a 12-8 record. But now they've got great wins. I don't know if that was a quad one win or not. Don't know what Iowa. They'd have to be in the top 50, which they probably are. Might be. I don't know. So I don't know if that was a quad one win or not for them. But regardless, that is a great resume builder for them when it comes time for NC tournament time, because last year they were a pretty good team. You couldn't beat them in Maryland, but they couldn't win on the road. Now they've kind of turned that around. So you've got a couple of teams in the Big Ten that are turning things around. Nebraska is one of those teams. Maryland is one of those teams. They're building and they're rising. I talked about Maryland months ago. Man, their recruiting classes were good, and that's why you got to watch out for Derek Queen on his decision. He's put it off twice now, and I think that he's really torn between Maryland. I think that they were probably kind of losing ground there for a while, but their play is you have to acknowledge it, and it's probably obviously something that he sees, and that could make a difference. I mean, he looks at Indiana, the talent that they have. He knows that they've got Malik here and Kalel, but he also sees that it's not the same type of deal going on at Maryland, and the NIL money will be the same. So that's going to be a difficult one to for Indiana. If they can land him, that's going to be a huge win. So we'll find out. Speaking of the devil and the Devils, John, was it Derek Queen also made a McDonald's All-American?
I haven't seen the full list myself, but I can get that information for you here shortly.
Well, I think he was. Liam McNeely, Indiana's recruit from Montverde, becomes their 31st. I'd have to go back to the list and count, but they've had probably
Derek Queen. Yes, correct. He was a McDonald's All-American.
Indiana could. So if they were to land him, that could give them 2 McDonald's All-Americans, which has happened in the past. That happened back in when Pat Graham came in. I think that Greg Graham was also a McDonald's All-American. So Indiana has landed 2 before, but they have landed one almost every year. There's been a 2-year break, I think, in 20 and 21, and one other occasion there was a 2-year break. But you go back to from 2011 forward, they've had at least one McDonald's All-American in that time. So Indiana is not having a problem getting talent. They have it. And for people, again, I know they haven't done jack squat from a national standpoint, and I can see why it's aggravating to Indiana fans. It should be. They ought to be pissed off because they've gotten the talent. They're still getting the talent. They have the greatest fan base there is in college basketball. They have the great facilities. They have the traditions. So they deserve the winning. The fans deserve that. And they're not getting it. And that's going to, those roosters are going to come home to roost at some point. But didn't mean to get off on that topic. But if they can land him 2 McDonald's All-Americans, that says a lot. But again, Indiana has to have all of the talent that they need. They need guard. But man, I was watching some video of Liam McNeely. That dude, gosh, I hate to make this. I'm not making a comparison, but he's a Larry Bird-esque shooter. And I mean, he just can come down the court in transition and just stop and pop from 2 feet behind the 3-point line and just drill them and look as comfortable as he's making a layup. And that's easier to do in high school. It's especially easier to do in AAU because no one's guarding you hard. But man, the dude's got talent. So unfortunately, I think he could play for Indiana right now. And I'm not joking one bit. I seriously think that he could not only play for Indiana right now, would be a difference maker for Indiana right now. But we'll talk about all that later as well. yeah, how about the games in the Big Ten last night? There were two. I'm trying to get those pulled up. I don't know why my
The other big one that you haven't mentioned yet, Illinois versus
Illinois.
Northwestern in overtime.
Yep, Northwestern, man. How can they not be ranked?
I mean, they may be next week, but I guess up until this point, their only major victory was over Purdue.
Well,
But now they've got two major victories.
That's a
at the beginning, though.
one.
I mean, if you have a very weak non-conference schedule, which Northwestern's not the type of program that plays in those tough non-conference tournaments that a lot of names like Indiana play in, so they don't really get their opportunities for big wins unless they schedule home and homes or when they get to conference play, and they're showing that right now.
Yep. Well, big. That's a huge win because it's on the road. So that gives them another big Q1 win. Maryland gets a big Q1 win by winning at Iowa. And I mention that because there are a lot of teams that are close to Indiana as far as their records and whatnot. But the difference in wins, that is the great separator. Indiana's got zilch. That 4-point loss to Kansas is going to, and we all said it at the time, that's going to haunt them. And I don't think any of us thought it would haunt them this badly, but it is now probably potential. I was going to say it could be the difference between them getting in the tournament or not. But I can't say that either because they've got 12 games left, and they're going to be favored in maybe one of those, and that's against Penn State at home. So we'll see. That's why they play the games, man. That's why they play the games. Looking forward to talking to Shannon, talking to some football. Tyler, we'll get back to and talk about that article he's got out, and Chris Denari. We get to talk about Mr. Siakam. And FYI, the reason I am where I am is because I am in Montverde, Florida, and I'm going to be down here covering the Montverde Invitational Basketball Tournament, which goes on for the next 3 days. Looking forward to seeing Liam McNeely, Derek Queen, and Mr. Allen, who just picked up a scholarship offer from Indiana. So I'll be talking to all of them and getting all that coverage for you and getting up for you as soon as possible. But we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Hoosier Hanks East over off of College Mall Road, where you can stop in anytime. Get the Jimbo special. They'll ask Benny. Benny knows what it is. It's the perfect pizza. It's thin crust. We'll talk about this with Shannon when we come back. But we're back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
The Jimbo Special, huh?
Yeah, I can't come up with a good name for it, man.
I like that. I like the Jimbo Special.
Man, that's there's a big ass tree right there. I mean, I'm like, just either do it or don't, but
You hear us this morning, Shannon? Okay, cool.
I'm just
dude, I need you to help me getting this stupid, ridiculously ignorant Roadcaster 2 hooked up.
I think he's setting his mic up. He's setting his mic up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but
we hear you, but it's not through your mic. It's through something else.
Maybe I don't need you to help me.
That's right. Hold on here. It's been a long morning already.
There we go.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Getting back now, I've tried a couple of times and I cannot get that thing figured out.
Oh, you mean the Roadcaster?
Yeah, it shows up on my settings and everything, and so I hit it, but it's not coming through.
Yeah, like I said, I just plugged and it played.
Ed is Montverde, not Montverde.
Hmm.
Montverde.
I thought we confirmed that a long time ago. Did we not?
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying Montverde, right?
Yeah, that's what you've been saying.
Yes.
Where are you at? You down in Florida? Or?
Yeah, I'm in Montverde, Florida.
Oh my!
Literally, I'll tell you how close I am. I think that they must have been having an early football practice. And I'm not kidding. I am literally. They're doing something right now. I don't know if it's football, soccer, or what, but I could hear something going on. I'm that close to. I'll be walking there. I mean, I could not have. I Airbnb'd it, and I'm like, this is incredible. The location, just the whole deal. Plus, I sat outside and smoked cigars last night.
Oh, yeah, you would be doing that here.
No,
you wouldn't be able to see you. It was so foggy yesterday. You'd have to use the bug of the cigar to find you.
All right, here we go, guys.
Pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back to another beautiful day, Thursday. Shannon Griffith from Hoosier Tailgate joining me now. First of all, the elephant in the room, just kidding, but Jim Harbaugh, he gone. Not a big surprise there, and I've nothing bad to say. Hell, I'd have done the same thing. He's gonna go cash it in and try to compete again at the highest level, which is what a competitor wants to do. And yeah. I get it, and it's a great landing spot for him, and he's got a quarterback that I freaking love.
Yeah, he in his mind, he probably feels that he's done what he went there to do. And that was to bring Michigan back to prominence. And he did that by winning the national championship after they kind of got embarrassed a year ago against TCU. But the other thing is I don't like thinking this way because I'd like to have more proof or evidence. I'm not so sure in some respects that the NCAA wasn't going to come down hard on them.
They still might, though.
They still might.
They should.
Because of what he was asking for in this contract, that he couldn't be fired for cause for NCAA rule violations or something to that extent. And that all of a sudden I was like, that's a strange request that will never be ever put into a contract.
What was it again?
Something to the effect that he would not be fired for any NCAA stuff, violations or stuff.
Well, that just kind of tells you that I know it's coming, so let me backfill that in.
Yeah, I mean, again, I say that a little bit tongue in cheek just because we don't have all the true evidence and such. But when that came out in that regard, I thought, man, that is a very strange thing to ask that no AD or school would ever put into a contract, because, if they do something that's an embarrassment to the institution, you got to get rid of him. You can't just say, well, it's in his contract, so I can't fire him for
after all that they've had go on. I mean,
right.
You got a guy that was put on probation twice in the same year, had NCAA violations prior to that. It was just not going to be a good situation. There was no way, even in this age of where you get away with everything, They did the thing that's still a no.
Yeah. And again, we'll see, because the NCAA moves at their own speed, and something like the recent issues with Connor Stallions and things of that nature. We'll see what the NCAA findings come out to be. But I think they had enough evidence on Michigan that the Big Ten was even told by the NCAA of that situation that led to that earlier suspension. So, but no, you take nothing away from Michigan and their kids and what they were able to accomplish this year. I just don't think Jim overall, irregardless of what has happened or transpired after they won the national championship, I think he felt his mission at Michigan was completed by bringing them back to prominence and putting them back firmly in the national spotlight by winning the national championship.
Yeah, and now we get to see who's going to be the next coach, but I think we already know who that's going to be. The crier, which is funny. That I mean, do you think that Ohio State will be playing that? You think they might play that sometime?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Ohio State to come up with something.
That's one of those golden keepers, man. How do you not keep that?
Yeah.
John, while we're talking, I'm going to give you time to go find my favorite clip.
The other thing is, like you said, everybody assumes that Moore's going to ascend to the top of the heap. But at the same time, if any of those other coaches, were involved in this charade, or this, no pun intended there, but a charade of issues and stealing signs and things of that magnitude, he may not get the job. The AD there may just feel like it's best to just move on and not have anything that's linked to Jim Harbaugh in that regard. But there's no question, you're right, that I think everybody assumes that. And if it doesn't play out, there'll be quite a few out there that will be able to be, that will be wanted by Michigan.
John, is that you telling me that you have the clip?
I do. You want me to play it?
Yeah, there's no context here. Like last time there was something that was funny that we were talking about, but my all-time favorite football clip is from a few years ago. Alabama was preparing to play Oklahoma in the national championship, and I cannot remember this dude's name, but he's playing in the NFL still. But they were at the the breakout tables, and someone asked him if have you ever played against someone the caliber of Kyler Murray?
Have you gone up against any quarterback that slightly resembles Kyler Murray?
No, I don't feel like I have going against a quarterback slightly resembling Kyler Murray, but I feel like Kyler Murray is not where everybody.
What's that?
No, I'm good.
Have you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
The hand of God came down.
Or the coach in the corner said,
I mean, that was literally, I always say that the hand, Nick Saban just reached down from the heavens and just grabbed him by the throat and was, I'm good.
Yeah.
Kalen DeBoer going to Alabama, and there's been a lot of turnover there. Some player, you're always going to have player turnover, but a couple of guys left, like the tight end who was success. I think he had 6 touchdowns last year, 300 or 400 yards in receptions. Surprised to see him leave, knowing that you've got a guy like Kalen DeBoer coming in who throws the ball all over the place. But I don't remember, did they really incorporate their tight ends into their offense that much?
Well, Kalen, I think, is very good with taking what he's got, and if he has a tight end or that are studs like he's going to have at Alabama, he's going to find a way to implement them into his philosophy offensively. I heard him on, I can't remember, yesterday. He was on an interview, and he said that there were a lot of those guys that had left prior to him coming or getting the job at Alabama. They were already in the portal. Maybe no, disclosure as it pertains to who, but I think he said since he's gotten the job at Alabama, they've only lost, he said, 5 or 6 since he's been in the head coach's chair there. So there must have been quite a few that put themselves into the portal prior to him becoming the head coach there. And it's the nature of the beast. I mean, these kids nowadays, especially at Alabama, can you imagine a kid at Alabama's value in the portal at other schools, especially if they were a really good player? I mean, especially if they're on the field quite a bit, their value is going to be so, astronomical in the portal and their NIL deals. But look, Kellen DeBoer is a very good football coach. There's plenty of other 5 stars and 4 stars on that roster at Alabama. And sometimes weeding some of those guys out isn't all that bad. But good luck, because he's following a guy that is a living legend that's going to be right down the hall from him. And there's going to be quite a few of Alabama fans that will let him know if he's not living up to the Saban era expectations each and every week. But I think they got the right hire. I don't think there was anybody out there that would have been any better than Kellen. And I think they're going to see a little bit more of an offensive team that spreads it out a little bit more, and but still has the capability of running the football, especially with the talent that Alabama has at that spot.
Oh yeah, I almost know one of the famous call-in people's names, and I can't remember it, but Nick Saban would call him by name because I guess he would call into the show so much. That's a whole new level when the call-in people are well known. But that's what it's like down there. But I think that the thing about he can handle it. You can't lose, you got to win. But he can handle it, and I think that once they see that that's his personality all the time, I mean, how does he not succeed there? I mean, I don't want to jinx him. Mm-hmm. There's been other times where somebody, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, and it's like, oh, that's an automatic.
Yeah,
and it doesn't happen.
But like right now, they're out recruiting. So he's getting a chance to go out and recruit. We're in the state of Alabama, getting a chance to know the people within the area or in that vicinity that Alabama recruits at, getting Kane to join him from South Alabama. Again, smart hire, not just for football, but just because Kane at least knows the lay of the land there in Alabama and the other territories that Alabama's going to hit. But, these guys are, in that recruiting mode right now. As you see, some of these 25 kids now are starting to pick up the offers quite frequently. If you watch Twitter X, I should say, even Indiana, I mean, they're out recruiting right now, and they're recruiting kids in the 25 class and some in the 26 class for that matter. But there's no question what Kalen has done at different levels just shows you the type of football coach he is, because he's able to adapt his philosophy to what he has in-house as his talent that they have. And he did that at Washington, and he did it quick. And I I bet you're right. He'll be able to do it at Alabama very easily with the talent that he'll have to utilize what he wants to do offensively.
Indiana, Kurt Cignetti has, I guess, pretty much finalized his staff now with Mike Ferreira as IU's director of player personnel. And that may not mean a lot to some people, but he's kind of sneaking in a lot of SEC flavor with the coaches, some of these coaches, and with Ferrara, who has spent time at different schools, Tennessee, but his last 2 years at LSU. These are all big time places, and he was involved in, I think, the last 2 top 15 recruiting classes.
Yeah.
So it's just checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, it's crazy nowadays to think they almost have an NFL style setup with player personnel's GM's mentality. And these guys are tasked to go through countless hours of film and kind of break down the available talent that they have to go out and recruit. And these guys all have familiarity with Indiana because I think at one point in time they were actually there at IU, and they just kind of, pick and choose that group of kids that they're going to present to the coaching staff and say, here are the guys that we think meet all the standards we're looking for here at IU and their philosophies, and they go recruit those kids. In the old days, when I was coaching, we didn't have any of those guys. I mean, we spent countless hours watching film of kids, from December all the way up to signing day. And it was more focused on that particular recruiting class. Now these guys are a year, 2 years ahead. And that's because of what these guys are doing in these player personnel positions for the staffs and such. So a lot has changed. You're right. He's had a couple top 15 classes at LSU. And I think these have all been really good off the field hires that Coach Cignetti can utilize and count on them to bring him the possibilities of getting some top classes for IU. And that's what it's going to take to help build up the roster, their depth, as well as these first-year players, because you can't always rely on the portal to rebuild your roster all the time. At least I don't think teams can. Now, some may disagree on that, but I just think you've got to also have that first year type of player that's coming in consistently and being able to build your program with those type of kids rather than always trying to rely on the portal to do that. So definitely these guys play a big part now in college football.
Yeah, and that's something that Cignetti seems like that he is intent on doing is growing his own. And I mean, not that he's not going to use the portal. You'd be foolish not to, because there's always guys that you can grab. I mean, I always say it. Look, Indiana, man, even when they weren't on the backside of what was, the last bit of Tom Allen, they were still getting guys out of the portal from good places. And it's like, dang. So there's no doubt that if he has this a modicum of success, then first of all, the recruiting is going to go up, but the portal recruiting is going to go up. And that, if you get both of those, now you're cooking with Crisco.
Absolutely. And these guys, they compile files on these players that they're trying to recruit. And let's say they don't get the kid, but eventually down the road, he comes available in the portal. Well, they'll know everything they need to know about that particular kid that may come into the portal. And that's these guys' job. They're there to track these kids, not only the ones that come to them, but where these kids also go that they had an interest in. And if they come available down the road in the portal, then they can go and try to get that kid to come to Indiana, knowing what they're getting. And that's the key component, is knowing what you're getting overall in a kid. Otherwise, you're kind of shooting blindly in the portal. And I thought Coach Signetti's philosophy was pretty on point when he said, I'm not looking for the guy that was the second team or third teamer at Alabama. I'm looking for guys that have actually played and have been contributors to the teams that they were a part of. And it will only enhance their ability with these kids by having these off the field personnels to help them in that regard. So it's a key component. He's put some really good guys in places for him, and it'll be interesting to see how they come out in their recruiting classes moving forward down the road.
Yeah, and it's just going to be interesting to see what Indiana looks like next year. What the offense is going to look like. Well, I mean, I know what I shouldn't say I know what we're expecting, because that's a little presumptuous, but I think I know what to expect. A kind of a high octane offense that's gonna try to challenge defenses. It's gonna really try to push them and spread it out, keep them on their heels. I don't know how much he's going to incorporate the running game, because I remember the top two running backs that were there that I believe came to Indiana and transferred, they only accounted for 6 total rushing touchdowns, if my research was right, which was shocking to me, because the tight end had 6 touchdowns by himself for James Madison. So I'm like, okay, do they not, either they're just balls to the walls when they get inside the red zone or down there, or they're not confident of running the ball, one of the two.
Well, you're going to see them utilize the tight end because that's a center point of what they like to do offensively, with him being a guy that they can, use in the spread offense by spreading him out. I think a lot of it had to do with they had some big plays that resulted in touchdowns. And then when they did get down there in the red zone, maybe they felt they had to use more of the passing game because everybody was, up in there in the box trying to stop the run because of the running backs they had. But I think you're right. I think you're going to see a dynamic offense, a little bit more flavor in the sense of imagination in terms of how they do things, what they do with the tight end, how they utilize the personnel on the outside, because I still think they've got a heck of a wide receiver room with what they've got there and what they brought in from the portal. And I think the biggest question is the offensive line and whether or not they can get the depth they need there and they can get them playing consistency, kind of like they did the latter part of the year last year. So, we're going to find out real quick with spring ball, because that's right around the corner. I think he said the first Thursday in can't remember, in March or something like that, they're going to start with their spring ball. It goes quick, and I think it'll be exciting to see coming out of spring where they got all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, and it'll be fun. And I wonder, will spring football become a thing in Indiana? Well, actually not spring football itself, but I meant the spring game. And I wonder what type of spring game they'll have, because there's been so many different iterations of it. Is it going to be, back in the days, it was actually a scrimmage and it was kind of fun to watch. And then it turned into, well, let's use pillows or whatever else, and everybody's going to get hurt all of a sudden. Why does everybody get hurt now? Why was that not that it wasn't a complete concern, but it kind of wasn't, and I don't recall it happening that much.
Yeah, I think part of it is the NCAA and how they've limited what you can do in your spring game, because I think you're limited to only 3 scrimmages where it's truly 11 on 11 and tackling to the ground. So that plays a big part in it. But you're right. When I was coaching, we had the steak and hot dog game in the spring game where you had a little bit of a incentive for the teams that were playing. And we used to hold a draft and do some things there. Sometimes your depth also plays a big part of it too. I know defensively for Indiana, I think they're going to have some depth issues, especially in their defensive line, that will also play a part on how much they can or cannot do. But there's no question this first spring game for Coach Signetti's staff will be a huge one. And hopefully it's a big opportunity for Indiana fans to come out and support it. I thought back in the day, didn't they used to have it around the Little Five, the spring game, and how that all was incorporated into that kind of big weekend?
Yeah, and there's a concert scheduled around then this year. Kane Brown and Jack Party and
that's right. Yeah,
Clayton Anderson, Indiana's very own.
And our own good friend Clayton Anderson. You missed it. We did a pregame show in New York for the game against UConn and Louisville games up there for Indiana, and where we were. He was there and sitting in the booth right next to me, and I didn't even know it for the longest time until it became known to me, and then ended up getting him he took over for about 20 minutes, and I got to run out and talk to some people. It was great. It's always great to have pros around, and he just jumped right into it, but looking forward to that too. But yep, man, appreciate all the great info as always. Great chat. Look forward to doing more as we get closer and closer. But make sure you give Shannon a follow and tune in to Hoosier Tailgate for him as well. Appreciate you.
Got Brian Haynes going to come on here in this week coming up next week, and looking forward to that chat that we're going to have with one of my former assistant coaches, now the defensive coordinator for Indiana, and looking forward to that. And hey, I'll be on this afternoon right after you on 1380 The Fan today, filling in for my friend Brett Rump.
A good deal. And then of course we'll have that once you have had it out. We'll get that interview out as well, but looking forward to it. But yeah, everybody in Fort Wayne, make sure you just keep it tuned right here, because coming up next, the man you just heard, Shannon Griffith. Hey, man, we've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home,
Have a good time down there in that warm Florida weather.
Well, that's the only thing I'm going to get to enjoy is this up until today. I got to check the schedule. I don't know when they start. But those games they start at like 4:30 or 5 today and tomorrow, I think, and then Saturday games as well. That one's at nighttime, I think. There's a runner-up and then the championship game. But last year, these nuts, they stormed the court last year.
I remember you saying that.
And I'm like, wait a minute. You're all at home. You're the best team in the country. Why are you storming the court? But it was crazy because they were like right by, and I was just holding on to stuff. I'm like, damn.
Better bring your shields today.
I'm gonna be ready this time. I'm gonna stick my leg out, or I'll be like Caitlin Clark.
That looked like, hey, that was a good. It was almost a good. How you would take a charge.
That was the worst flop I have seen in so long, and she's caught no shit over it.
Well, yeah.
I think the main thing is in her presser, she kind of
She didn't say that she faked it, but she said that she was okay. She quit acting like she was hurt.
Well, that does not. No, that does not.
I know it doesn't excuse it, but I think they tried to get ahead of it before it became a thing. Is what I'm kind of saying.
Yeah.
Which the court storming has to stop. That's done. That's over now. I mean,
I don't know if that. I mean, yeah, they're going to try to stop, but that's not going to actually stop people from still doing it unless they actually. They have to genuinely enforce it for it to be done.
They're going to have to. They're going to. I guarantee you, because eventually some idiot will get hurt. My daughter goes to Ole Miss, and when they beat LSU, they stormed the field. And I remember I was texting her, "If you're down on that field, you better be careful." And and she was texting me back and texting pictures. But she showed me a video later at Thanksgiving. When people were coming on to the end zone, and there was this one guard, he was still like the guy on the Animal House,
Hey, we just got a couple of seconds. Shannon, are you sticking around with us?
Well, I can go.
No, you're heading. Okay, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy.
PR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to anymoreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Thanks a lot for being with us. Just finished up with Shannon Griffith. Lots of great football talk. Trent Sisley, Indiana's top, along with Derek Queen, top target. Those two guys, without question, top targets. And he has officially set an unofficial visit to Purdue on February 10th. Anyone know who the opponent is that day? That would be the Indiana Hoosiers. So that's going to give him something to consider. Great environment. It's going to be a crazy environment. And unless Indiana can pull a miracle, last year wasn't a miracle. They just flat out beat Purdue. Jalen Hood-Schifino put the team on his back and just scored and scored. Unfortunately, they don't have that guy this year. And you're not going to beat Purdue on the inside. That's the problem. To beat Purdue, you have to be able to not just compete, but beat them on the perimeter. You have to defend them. You have to keep their guards down, and your guards have to do better. You have to get scoring like Indiana did from Jalen Hood-Schifino last year with 35 points, all coming on mostly mid-range jump shots that he just ate them up with. And then you add some Trace Jackson-Davis to the mix. If they had a guy like that this year, man, they'd have just as good a chance. But not to be a negative Nancy, but that's going to be tough. Of course, that's not the only one, but they've got another road game coming up, and it's another opportunity to get a quad one win, something that they desperately need. They have none of those at the moment, and that's just going to be a flat out requirement. They're going to have to get two if they have any hopes of making the dance. And we'll talk.
I know we've maybe already said this, Jim, earlier this week or maybe last week, but it's kind of silly to say that any game is a must win. And I know
every game's a must win for them almost.
Well, here's the thing. This game specifically, even though you are not going to be favored, you are not going to be expected to win in any capacity. If Indiana wants to have any hope of turning their season around and having a chance of making the NCAA tournament, you just have to find a way to beat Illinois this weekend. And that's a very tall task. And I'm sure nobody, like I said earlier, is expecting that to happen. But if you are a player or a coach on this team or staff, you have to realize how important this game is if you want to keep your postseason hopes alive.
I can't disagree with you. It's not that there are other games that they could win after this one, but
you don't have a signature win yet. This would be.
I understand that. Well, there's a very few others. Purdue is one of the others. If you go to Maryland and win,
but that's still not going to be a signature win. Maryland, you've already beaten Maryland once, and granted, it was back when they weren't as hot as they are right now. But Indiana still has a better record than Maryland overall.
Well, you've got Wisconsin coming into Indiana.
Yes, and that would be a good. And I'm not saying that you beat Illinois and everything's all fine. It's just the first step in moving in the right direction.
I hear you. It's they're running out of opportunities. They have 12 games left, but they don't have 12 opportunities for that win that they need. I agree with what you're saying. Illinois is one of those. Purdue would be one of those. Wisconsin at home would be one of those. But they're getting fewer. And then not only that, you still have to win the other games. You can't lose to Minnesota, and that's going to be a tough place to play. They just lost by 2 to somebody.
Wisconsin, and yet that's a rival for them, so you'd expect that to be a good game regardless. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
And Indiana's got to go to Penn State, and if you think that's going to be easy, the Big Ten leader right now is Wisconsin at 7-1. That one loss at Penn State, so it's going to be tough. Shane earlier said that Montverde is 2 Spanish words, Mont meaning mountain, and verde is the color of green. Yes, Mont. Oh, it didn't left the R out there. Montverde in translation is Green Mountain, which I don't disagree with that. But that's like if you go to Louisville, Kentucky, and you say Louisville, they're gonna jump your ass and say, "Oh, it's Louisville."
Yep.
And I was born there, so but I refuse to say Louisville.
People take pride in mispronouncing their home city here.
Yes, and I'm like, you know what? I worked hard and went to college, man. I don't want to sound like I don't know how to talk. It's Louis. It's named after the town is named after King Louis, not Lua. It wasn't King Lua, and it's Ville, short for village, not a vol. So, boom. There's my take on that. But I will get the official pronunciation from someone over there and report that back tomorrow. And then also when we come back, or right before we go to break, I guess this is the hard break, but we'll talk about this. Robert, he thinks that I want Dusty May, and it's May, to be the coach at Indiana. I don't want anybody to be the coach at Indiana. But we'll talk about that on the other side. Hey, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty, Cheryl Sizemore. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
I have to say, it feels nice out.
Sounds very peaceful where you're at.
Dude, it is. I am out in the middle of nowhere.
Sometimes it's the best place to be.
I mean, I'm going to be walking to Montverde for this stuff. It's literally
Montverde's out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, hell yes.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say the middle of nowhere. There's bunches of great houses out here, but I mean, there's stuff 10 minutes away. Apparently, it sure seems like it is though.
Here comes Tyler. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Oh, it looks so warm there. I'll tell you what.
Hey, I have a vest on if you didn't notice.
Is it not like 70 degrees? What is it down there right now?
That's a good question. The official temperature right now is a cool and crisp 671, it says.
Wow. Yeah, that's ideal.
With a steady, cool breeze. High today expected 80 with partly sunny skies. Tomorrow,
right.
High of 82, again with partly sunny skies. And Saturday, 83 degrees with a slight chance of rain later in the day.
Here we go, guys. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. And now Tyler Smith joins us from thehoosier.com. And Tyler has a piece out right now talking about Indiana's bracketology chances, which that's almost a statement that's you can't use those two words in the same sentence right now. Unfortunately, I was just talking about that. It's not that there's no chance, but with what we have seen on the court, it's hard to imagine that Indiana could do what we know that they have to do for that to be a reality.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. You know, I think it's been well documented. They don't have a single quad one victory. There's only 5 games left at this point, 5 opportunities left, including Saturday. So the bracketologist I was talking to was talking about they're going to have to go probably 9-3 with a couple quad one wins the rest of the way just to be in the conversation. Or he said possibly 8-4 if there's 3 quad one wins. So that's just to get them in the conversation of the bubble again. You know, Saturday is a very tough game. The landscape of their outlook would change if they were to somehow pull this one out on Saturday. But you know, that's a tall task, and for a team that's only won once on the road all year, there's just a lot at stake. They're going to have to win every home game the rest of the way, no matter what. And then depending on Saturday, see how many extra road games they would have to pull out just to have a chance.
Yeah, because there's teams like I was talking earlier, like Maryland, who is going to have a similar record, but they already have 2 great road wins in the Big Ten. Just picked up another one over Iowa. And that's something you can see how that they're getting better, because last year they were unbeatable at home but couldn't buy a win on the road, and this year that is not the case. Nebraska is moved up and gotten better. And so these teams have done enough. Nebraska with a signature win over Purdue. So, you know, they just have to take care of business. They don't have to do anything special. And the more that you have those teams, it pushes you down and makes it all the more difficult.
Yeah, not to mention those teams that are kind of surprise conference tournament winners that just take the at-large bids, make them even smaller. Just a very, very small margin for error for this team the rest of the way. And, you know, the only thing, if you can, you know, muster up some optimism and think about what's possible. Again, if you look at Saturday, because of Indiana's position, this game has major importance. That's a scary thought for IU fans because of how difficult it's going to be. But if they can find some kind of way to pull out a win in Champaign, again, not a likely scenario, but if they pull that out, you can see a path, you know, beat Penn State both games. Again, not easy, especially on the road. Win your home games the rest of the way, and then all of a sudden, you know, you kind of look at the rest of the schedule as maybe something that's more possible. But if they lose Saturday as expected, as they're projected to do, again, that margin for error just becomes even smaller, and you have to look at maybe a 9-2 finish. And, you know, you and I and most of these other people watching just think that's probably not at all likely with what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's from what we've seen. It's not that it's impossible, because this is a team that lost by 4 to Kansas, but that is also a loss that we knew at the time, and it has come to fruition that loss is going to haunt them more than any other, probably.
For sure, that would have been huge. Would have obviously changed a lot in the rankings in many ways, and I think a lot. You know, this year we're really seeing how much it impacts your computer rankings when you get blown out. So even if they would have kept the Purdue game close, some of those games, UConn, some of the games they just got wiped off the floor. Had they been more competitive, you know, the rankings change a little bit in that regard. But just a bad spot to be below 90 in just about every ranking at this point.
Yeah, and it's just this team is in a. It's not a funk. They just don't seem to be together. They're not on the same page, and it's the offense has not come together. The yin and the yang are not coming meeting in the middle in any way. The front court has been pretty solid all year long, and you can't fault the offense at that part, but the guard play, as we all know, has just been a wreck. You know, maybe Xavier getting hurt really screwed his entire season. I don't know if he's going to be able to come back. He kind of lost his way. He got the flagrant, and then he got the second flagrant. And it's just that it's kind of snowballed, but that's also snowballed for the team, because that makes it difficult on everybody. And then CJ gets that was a weak flagrant call, but that was just a dumb one. It wasn't that's not in the same place that Xavier's was, but this team is just in a bad place and mentally, and I don't know that you can win when you're in a situation like that.
Yeah, a lot of adversity. There's been a lot to happen. Of course, a lot of programs deal with, you know, different things throughout the course of a long season. And this team, unfortunately, kind of, you know, when they're backed into a corner or, again, a team punches first, they've often just kind of laid down and died instead of fighting. There's only 2 more games in January. Calendar flip. You know, it's go time. And other piece of optimism is that an 8-day off stretch. Illinois has played twice in an overtime game. If Indiana, I think they had in this stretch, they had 2 days where they were off. That means they had 6 full practices to prepare for this game. And if they come out unprepared in this one, that's going to say a lot. This is a chance for them to reset, to work on their connection, as Malik Renew said, work on their identity, heal some injuries. and really put together their best game plan possible in a huge game. And so if they come out flat, if they don't come ready to fight, and if they look unprepared, it's going to be kind of brutal thinking about the outlook the rest of the way. But thankfully they did have this reset here, and hopefully it'll help them.
Montverde, however you pronounce it. Liam McNeely named a McDonald's All-American. He will become Indiana's, I think, 31st McDonald's All-American. Derek Queen, also a McDonald's All-American, and Indiana still hoping for that. I'm just wondering, is Maryland, I don't want to say pulling ahead, but do you think Maryland seems from the outside like they have strengthened themselves at least? Because they had kind of fell off to me. But I wonder if they're not back into the picture.
Very possible. This has been a tricky recruitment, which, it's not a bad thing. The player can do whatever he feels right. And I think depending on who you talk to, some conversations I've had, it's gone back and forth. And at times it's not just between those two teams. Excuse me. There's some other teams that have been in the mix at different points, but one of the thoughts by some people in IU circles is, would he be more interested if it looked like Kel'el Ware was going to go to the NBA? And that's kind of unsure at this time. But
isn't he listed on most draft boards?
He is, yeah. I think the consensus for him has often been in the 19 to 24 range has been the most average. There are some that have him higher. So that's something to watch. I don't know if Queen would wait all the way until May or whatever it is for Ware to decide. But if he has kind of an idea, that may impact his thoughts about Indiana. I know a lot of fans will say, well, the current state and how the team's doing always impacts recruits. That's not always the case. I mean, you see good recruits go to a team that's had a struggling year all the time. So I think it's more about his fit and being comfortable and where he's going to, become a starter right away and those kind of things. So probably still some time to determine that, but be good get a chance to watch him this weekend. That's an incredible team to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of good teams in the Montverde Invitational, and there's a lot of talent. So that's that will be fun to watch. In addition to the two we just talked about, Liam McNeely and Derek Queen, a recent offer out as well to another teammate on the Montverde roster.
Yeah, they're completely stacked. This is a squad that I feel like.
And we lost him. So that's going to pretty much wrap that little conversation up. Unfortunately,
hopefully he's able to join us back, but sometimes
I'm sure
you just fall off a cliff.
Yeah, it looked like he did just fall off a cliff, because his wife came in and just hit him in the head with a frying pan. But a new offer out to a third member on the Montverde roster, a guard, Mr. Allen, and that is something Indiana desperately needs, as we talk about. But we don't know how many spots are going to be open, and there will be transfers. There just always are. I don't know who that's going to be. I'm not predicting who's that going to be. But while I have this time, where is that back on my man, Robert Carter? Hold on. All right, but I got to get on this. Tyler, welcome back. The truth, Robert says that he says Dusty May would never be the coach at IU. I know that's what you want, but stop lying to yourself. What he's doing now. First of all, again, there's not going to be a new coach in Indiana in any time in the near future. Not at the end of this year, not at the earliest until the end of next year at the earliest. And that's an if. So first of all, that's not going to happen. But he's calling me out. I'll tell you, and I will tell you flat out, if you asked me who my pick to be the next coach would be, that's not who it would be. I do have one, but that ain't it. So I appreciate you the truth, but that ain't the truth. So back to Tyler Smith joining us from thehoosier.com. Indiana continues this. They're attempting to continue this pipeline to Montverde, which for obvious reasons, this is an academy of eliteness, period. It's not just basketball. It's academics. It is unbelievable. And I was actually, while we had the conversation about how to actually pronounce the name a minute ago, I looked up a little bit of quick history, and it actually started from a guy from Boyle County, Kentucky, John, which actually I have relatives down there.
Really?
Yes. And then he moved to Florida and found an area, this area right here, that he paid $10.50 in taxes for 10 plots. And that's how it got started. So how you like those apples?
What a nice little history lesson right there.
There you go. Exactly. Let's see. Robert says that Khalil Ware wanting to do a Romeo Langford and try to protect his draft status. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a financially smart move, because Romeo was not going to get better. He was what he was, and he was what you saw. He wasn't a shooter. He learned to play. He got his defense better, but he was just a scorer at times, but that ran out. And that's why he's no longer in the league, is he?
I think he's bounced around to I thought he was playing.
Last time I saw, he got picked up by the Spurs very briefly and then got dropped very shortly after that. So I don't believe he's in the league right now.
I mentioned earlier, Tyler, that Trent Sisley announces an unofficial visit scheduled to Purdue on February 10th. And I recognized that date when I saw it, and I'm like, and it is the Indiana game. So Purdue taking every advantage that they can smartly, and will be bringing one of their absolute top targets in for that game. And you know that he is going to get all the love in the world, which he got that in Indiana, but he's going to get, and he's going to see a great environment. And he's going to see a very high-ranking basketball team that is recruiting him.
Yeah, that is definitely smart on their part. You know, I think it would be it'd be interesting if there's even more IU Purdue recruiting battles. Obviously, right now, that'd be nerve-wracking for fans with Purdue having the upper hand in a lot of ways. But I think that would be very, very fun for the state if in the next several years that becomes even more of a thing where there's a battle for certain players. But yeah, he's a good one. You know, he's very well calculated kid, and I think that you know, he's going to take everything into consideration. But that's going to be a good day for him from the Purdue side. You know, you look at that game, and it's like, you know, obviously Purdue wins by 21. I fear, but hopefully Indiana's figured some things out from then and can at least make it a game, make things interesting. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy environment that he's going to watch.
Well, and we'll certainly find out. Make sure you're giving Tyler Smith a follow and the content there at thehoosier.com. Mason has a great piece out as well, talking about the lineups and the various rotations, and how Indiana has one of their rotations is one of the most efficiently efficient in the country. Not the top, but they're in like the top 4. And it's mind-boggling, and because we're not talking a small sample size either. But so I'll go check all of that out and more. Appreciate you, my friend. We've got more coming up. Our good friend Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers, and they've got a great new addition. They had a new baby. Pascal Siakam joins the roster. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. They had a new baby. That's a good one. I like that.
That was a good one.
I don't know. That just came out of nowhere, man. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm doing it on my phone. For whatever reason, my computer to StreamYard is not picking up my camera. I have no idea why.
Dude, I started having that problem all the time. I had to start carrying a spare camera around with me.
So I've got a stand here with my phone. So
it sounds fine. So we appreciate you making it work.
Yep. Where are you, Jim?
I am in Montverde, Florida. I'm going to cover the Montverde Invitational, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's 3 Indiana recruits on there. 2 of them are McDonald's All-Americans.
Okay. Do they play at Montverde or are they on other teams?
It's all here at Montverde. Oh yeah, they play for Montverde as well.
Okay. Where is Montverde? Where is it in Florida?
It is northeast of Orlando, about 30 minutes.
Okay, so it's not far. How far from Gainesville?
You know what? It's a good question. Brockway was just texting me. Where are you? So, well, you should come to Gainesville for Florida, Georgia Saturday. I'm like, I'd love to, but I'm watching high school basketball instead.
Yeah, because he covers Florida, right?
Yeah. I've never been to Gainesville.
I haven't either. I've been to Tallahassee when I was doing Butler games. We played Florida State.
Yeah, I've been to Tallahassee.
We played Florida, but it was the NCAA tournament, so we played them in Winston-Salem.
I remember being at Florida State one time, and I was literally over at the stadium just checking it out with a buddy who lives there, and it was like that scene from Rudy when they come running off the practice field and almost knocked Rudy over, and he's there. That's what I felt like, because all these big dudes come running out, and here comes Jimbo Fisher, like Eric Parsegian. It was hilarious.
All right, here we go, guys.
Selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you immensely. Joined now by the great voice of the Pacers, Chris Denari. Fresh off of your West Coast swing, how were things out west?
It's good to be home. It was a long trip, 6 games, 12 days, 2-4. You know, you had a chance maybe to go 3-3. They always say on a long trip like that, if you can go 500, that's a win, but they came up short of that. Tough schedule right now. You play 6 straight on the road. You come home on Tuesday night without Tyrese Halliburton, who's out for 3 games, injury management. You have the defending champs, Denver. Thought they played pretty well, had a chance to win, had the lead late. Tonight, Philadelphia, they've won 6 straight. They've beaten you 7 of 8. Joel Embiid's coming in off a 70-point game. Then it's tomorrow night, a back-to-back. You've got Phoenix, who you just played on Sunday, who, has Booker, Beal, and Durant. And then you end the homestand with Memphis on Sunday. And despite no Ja Morant, they're playing pretty well. So, Jim, that's the NBA. I mean, there's no there's no real rest. And so, it's a tough stretch. You mentioned it in the open. Pascal Siakam is a Pacer now. He's done a lot of good things. We've not seen this full team together yet because even when Halliburton was back for a game against Portland, there were other guys injured. So I think we're all anxious to see when it's all put together what it's going to be like.
Yeah, and how soon they can get started doing that and beginning that process. How long do you think that's going to be, Chris, before they can start that?
Well, I think anytime you make a change to your roster, it's going to take a while. I think the good thing is, Jim, before this stretch where now they've lost 5 of 6, they had won 9 of 10, and they had moved as high as 4th in the Eastern Conference. And really from 4th to about 8th right now is only separated by a game or two. So they had built themselves a little bit of a cushion, if you will, above 500. I think it's going to take a few weeks. I think they'll win some games, no question. But yesterday was the first practice that they had with Pascal Siakam, because when he was acquired a week ago today, the Pacers were on the road playing the first night of a back-to-back. And then they had a shoot-around in Portland on Friday. Since they had played a back-to-back on Thursday and Friday, they did not practice on Saturday. Then they had a game on Sunday in Phoenix, so there's no practice. Flew back on Monday, didn't get home until probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so no practice. And then he had a game on Tuesday. So, to sort of integrate him, it's a lot of film study, it's a lot of walkthroughs, but that's not actual practice. So yesterday was an important day for him to be on the floor at the Ascension St. Vincent Center. But then again, you don't have Tyrese Halliburton. So it's going to take some time, but I mean, this guy's a 2-time All-Star, a 2-time All-NBA player. We've seen a lot of good things from him. I mean, the other night he had 16 points and 10 rebounds, 4 assists. It's going to work out, but again, with the schedule the way it is, it may take some time.
Yeah, and in that interim, there has to be a very positive vibe throughout the team for what this move means and what it does for the team in the long run.
Oh, no question. And I think it's also that way for the fan base. I mean, when you acquire somebody like Pascal Siakam, I mean, it shows everybody is very serious about what they're trying to do. And I think the rebuild, if you will, is a little ahead of schedule. I mean, if you would have, 2 years ago, the Pacers won 25 games. Last year, they were a top 6 team before Tyrese Halliburton got hurt midway through the season. And then that slowed the rebuild, if you will. But I think now you're in a position where you feel like you can make the playoffs, and you've added this, really good player that can help take you to another level. I mean, if you look throughout the NBA, you want to have, at least 2 players that are all-star capable, because that elevates your franchise, and that means you've got a second really good player. I think the Pacers roster has a lot of good players, but when you add Pascal Siakam, you add a really good player to Tyrese Halliburton. So there's no question. I think they're all excited to have him. You're sad to lose a couple of guys. Bruce Brown in his first year fit right in. Jordan Nwora was a nice player at times coming off the bench. But to get somebody of the quality of Pascal Siakam, you've got to give up some players. And I think if you look, Jim, at Indiana's young roster, those 2 draft picks that they gave up, I'm not sure they would have even utilized them, because they were probably going to be in the teens or the 20s. And if you look at the Pacers roster, it's very young. They've got 2 rookies right now in Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd that are starting to crack into the rotation. Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard are young. I mean, Halliburton's only in his 4th year. So there really wasn't a place, I think, to add 1 or 2 more young players. You needed more players with experience that can take you to another level.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the latest on getting Tyrese back?
Well, I think, he came back last Friday and played very well. He had 21 points and 17 assists, and the Pacers came up a little bit short in Portland. They're saying he did not re-aggravate it, but you could tell that it was sore after the fact. I mean, it's a hamstring, and he came back, quite honestly, a little bit earlier than we all had anticipated. He was back within 2 weeks. And so I think as they looked at it, even though he didn't necessarily re-injure the hamstring, I think they all just felt, hey, let's give it another week, to, I don't want to even say calm down, but let's just give him another week. And so he'll be reevaluated on Saturday. I think the hope is that he could return on Sunday against Memphis and then be available next week in the 2-game road trip in Boston and New York. And I know he was disappointed he didn't play in Sacramento, where he started his career. And the Pacers only have one other national TV game. We won't do it next Tuesday in Boston. It's on TNT, and I know he wants to play in that game. So hopefully he'll get cleared Saturday and be available on Sunday.
Yeah, I can't wait to see them together because an already good, fun, young lineup and what they have been achieving, and now you add a better piece, an all-star piece to this. The expectations are there, but got to get past the injuries as always.
Yeah, if you look at, and this would be for the people that are really into analytics, the starting 5 that they utilized on Friday night in Portland, and that did include, for the only time, Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, and Group. Jim, it was a plus 58 net rating. It was like a 148 offensive rating. So that's 148 for 100 offensive possessions. And it was like 95 defensively. I mean, it was a plus 50. Now, again, small sample size, one game, 19 minutes. But it gave everybody a taste of what that starting unit could be. And what was disappointing on that night was the bench has been so good this year, and the bench was not good at all. So when the starters left the floor, the Pacers really took a hit. So I think that in of itself, that small sample size is giving everybody, a lot of excitement to see that group together for multiple games.
Yeah, looking forward to that. What is when you don't have these guys, and we saw the Pacers win without Tyrese some games when I was up there, and that's great for their growth, but they can't be expected to continue to overachieve like that and stay where they want to stay in this playoff race.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, they beat Washington. You were at the Washington game, I think, right? That's
Yes,
when I
sir.
saw you, right before we went on the road trip. And then they beat Atlanta and they beat Sacramento. I mean, Sacramento's a good team and they beat them on the road. But to your point, and I like the talent on this team, but I don't know if without Tyrese, it's sustainable to be as good as you want to be. Can you win games? Sure. And I think they're better suited to win games this year without Tyrese than a year ago when they didn't have him. Yeah, I mean, you just have to fight through it, and guys have to elevate their game. They've got to play a little bit better than they normally would to make up for what Tyrese gives you on the floor.
And while they did gain Pascal Siakam, they lose a couple of guys. Who's stepping up in their stead?
Well, this is, I think, one of the most interesting stats that you can see, Jim. The Pacers have used, in the last 11 games, 11 consecutive different starting lineups. Now, within that 11, I think there have been 2 starting lineups that have been used multiple times. But what I'm saying, from game to game to game to game, there have not been 2 consecutive lineups the same since early January. So you can see that's due to the trade they made for Pascal Siakam when they traded Bruce Brown, who had started every game he had played in, to also the injuries, because over the last month, at times, they've been without Andrew Nembhard. They've been without Aaron Nesmith. They've been without Jalen Smith. they've been without Tyrese Halliburton. So from that standpoint, to your point, there's not been a lot of continuity in who's been the starters and who's the group coming off the bench. So hopefully that will rectify itself. TJ McConnell's played very well off the bench. Benedict Matherin's had some big games off the bench. Jalen Smith, when he's not been having issues with a sore lower back, has been as consistent as anyone. Aaron Nesmith's top 5 in the NBA in three-point shooting. So a lot of good performances. You just want to see this team, more at full strength moving forward.
Well, that would be great. And but the fans have had to have had an absolute great fun year with this Pacers team.
No question. I mean, the building's electric. We've been sold out more this year than we have the last 2 years, probably combined. Tuesday night for Denver was over 16,000. I expect tonight against Philadelphia, tomorrow night Phoenix, and then a matinee game on Sunday to be big crowds. So yeah, they've had a lot of fun. They've been very enthusiastic. They love watching this product, and it's been a lot of fun to call the games as well.
I bet it has. Winning cures everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Winning is the elixir that we're all looking for, right, Jim?
It is absolutely. It's that old man back in the day on that bottle. So it's winning, baby. Tiger blood. I guess he should have been selling tiger blood. What's up next for you?
Game tonight, Philadelphia, 6:30 pregame, 7:00 tip, followed by a home back-to-back Phoenix, Kevin Durant, Booker, and Beal tomorrow night. And then Sunday afternoon, a 3:30 game against the Memphis Grizzlies. So Jaren Jackson Jr. Will be back. Desmond Bain, a Richmond, Indiana native, is out. Terrific three-point shooter. John Conchar played at Purdue Fort Wayne. Jake LaRavia played at Lawrence Central and one-time Indiana State. So they have a really heavy Hoosier connection, if you will, coming in on Sunday afternoon.
Jake LaRavia, was not recruited by Indiana, I don't think.
Yeah, that I would have to say, Jim, that was a miss.
Yeah, boy, was it just a bit outside, without question. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you so much, as always.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. More coming up, brought to you by our good friends out in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry. Keep that championship smile. Go see Dr. J. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right, guys.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. See you, John. See you, Jim.
Hey, buddy.
All right.
Oh, Rick.
Excuse me.
That's funny. Oh, I missed that. Sorry. 92 miles, Montverde to Gainesville. Thank you, Brian. I ain't taking an Uber that far. Yeah. Who's crystal ball, though? That's a pretty good comparison, I gotta say. And that right there is the truth.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Dead on, my man. That is dead on. Boy.
Good day.
And now you know the rest of the story. Have you ever heard? Did I play one of those?
I've heard one that I think I found one after we talked about it one time. I don't think I ever played it on the show though.
Oh shit.
All right. 30 seconds.
On South Walnut in Bloomington, and is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bacon.
Real quick, what is it?
Nothing. I gotta pull this stupid thing up.
Oh, okay.
Around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home, or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper fillet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. Appreciate you being with us, as always. Caitlin Clark, will she or won't she declare for the WNBA? I only bring it up because if she does, the Indiana Fever has the number one pick. She has a year of eligibility left, and I don't know what she makes NIL-wise. I know she's making good money, but she's also already doing endorsements. State Farm and all that stuff, man, that's where she's going to make her money. She'll make more money in endorsements than playing in the WNBA, which doesn't pay much. I'm thinking top 100,000 a year, maybe, but she makes 10 times that in endorsements, more than that. Well, no, not more than 10 times 100,000, but she'll make plenty of in endorsements, but millions. And those endorsements will grow as she gets a bigger audience, and she will have a bigger audience, bigger cities. She still got that. And if she can perform and carry that game over, that will also just continue to bode her well. So it's a mystery. I would definitely hate to see her stay because she would destroy all kinds of records, but it would be BS because it would be a complete fifth year. And I'm not about that stuff. I don't think that that's right. I don't think you should be allowed to break 4-year records with 5 years of play. So there's that. Look for some questions. Someone made a comment that she's like Larry Bird and Pete Rose and she wants to win. I agree with that. That girl can shoot. I mean, flat out freaking shoot. And has no fear. Yeah, she does some stuff that aggravates people, but if she was on your team, she wouldn't aggravate you. You'd love it. Did she flop in that Ohio State deal? Oh, hell yes, she did. Hell yes. And she had to see that. And yeah, they ran into each other, but she extended her arms. If you notice, the other girl, she's the one that went, wow, hit the ground hard, while Caitlin was doing her little pirouette and then the late head snap. Love that. The head snap. The late head snap is always great. Steven, is that accurate? Says that her boyfriend works for the Pacers. Oh, I wasn't trying to put that up there. What does he do for the Pacers? Brian says the Fever's Eric Wheeler had the highest WNBA salary. At Eric, is that a typo? Now, is that 242,000 over 3 years? Because I believe that the most recent number one signee by the Fever is less than 400,000 over 4 years, I think is what the contract was. But let's see. I was hoping to get onto the Mike Whitson presser today. I did not get the link. So I'm going to try to see if we can swing that, bring that to you. And if not, you know where to find it in a little while. It'll be up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio's YouTube page here. Indiana up against Illinois next. What are your thoughts? What are your hopes? What do you believe? What do you think that this team's true results are going to be for this remaining year? I can't predict the minds of these guys. Something may click and it may come together. It's going to take a lot. That's the thing. It's not just one thing. The shooting has just been horrific. The free throw shooting has been bad. And the rebounding has been bad. Fundamental things. That's the problem, but that's also what should give fans some hope, because those are fixable things if you work on them. But it seems pretty late in the campaign to be able to fix that. And that's what it's no fun to be negative about anything, but it's also hard to not see reality. And that is the reality so far. Boy, I don't think that went through. It sure did not. That's why I didn't get the link yesterday. Man. So probably won't have that today. John Boy, who do we have on the show tomorrow, by the way?
Tomorrow on Friday, we will have our friend Bob Kravitz.
Oh, yeah.
Talk all sorts of things, including Indiana basketball, the Pacers, and the Colts, I'm sure. We'll also hear from Zach Osterman. And I do believe we have, I don't remember for sure, I feel like we have a special guest tomorrow. And when I say special, it's not anything out of the ordinary. It's just somebody who normally doesn't come on Fridays. And that is, yes, Stephen Bardo.
Yep.
Going to join us tomorrow in the second hour.
Absolutely. Before Indiana and Illinois tussle on Saturday. So it'll be good to talk to him. He knows that team inside and out and has called several of the Indiana games. And well, you know where his heart lies. He's as neutral as anybody.
Very objective. Him and Robbie Hummel, two of the best guys on TV play-by-play that are former players of Big Ten teams, and they don't, I mean, obviously you know where they stand, like you just mentioned, Jim, but they are two of the best when it comes to not showing their allegiance, at least in my opinion.
I agree with you 1,000%.
I mean, the fact that they allow Robbie Hummel to do the Indiana-Purdue game just goes to show how I mean, exactly what I just said is true.
Did you say it again now? How you say that?
The fact that they allowed Robbie Hummel to do the play-by-play for the Indiana-Purdue game just goes to show how good he is at not letting his bias get in the way.
Yeah, he was good from the start. And he treats it as a job, and he does a very good job at it. And that's why Indiana fans like to hear him, just like Iowa fans, I assume, or anybody else, because he does a good job breaking the game down, talking about the game, and there is no bias. He just talks about the game and how it lays out.
That'll be interesting. I'm looking at one of the obviously we're not live with the presser right now, but Zach Osterman just tweeted that Mike Woodson says Kalel Ware, who suffered an ankle injury recently, hasn't participated in contact portions of practice yet this week. Says he'll have a better feel for Ware's status for Illinois on Saturday at and after Thursday practice.
Yeah, that's another way he'll be listed as questionable on the availability report when that comes out. So without Kalel Ware, it just makes the mountain a lot higher. I mean,
without anybody at this point, and not that Indiana is like super shorthanded. They are shorthanded in different ways depending on how you look at it. But any injury against any team at this point is going to be a chunk off the armor. I don't even know if I used that phrase correctly, but you don't want to lose anything that could make your situation more difficult than it already is going to be. And it's already going to be a difficult situation when you have to travel to Champaign to take on Illinois, who recently got their best player back.
Yeah, but he is not the guy that's leading them right now. Daggone it. That's the one thing about being out in the field. You don't have all your the niceties to be able to pull stuff up. I can't think of their top dog right now, but 22 points and 7 assists.
Coleman Hawkins.
Well, no, he also had 22 points, I think, but wasn't there? Or am I thinking of the Maryland
Could have been
game?
Domisk. I don't know how you say that guy. Marcus Domisk or
Domisk. Yeah, he has been their leader. Just like Jameer Young has been doing it for Maryland. Everybody has that guy. Boo Buie for Northwestern. Zach Edey for Purdue. The teams that don't have that guy, well, look where they are. They're toward the bottom. Iowa does not have that guy this year, and they're struggling. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say they're struggling, but they're mediocre, much like Indiana has been, unfortunately to say, because they don't have that guy. Even Kalel Ware has been very good. Malik Renew has been very good, but neither of them have just been that guy that is pumping in 20-something points a game every game, which, that's tough to do, but that's the difference between the teams at the top and the rest. Having that talent, having the guys that can do that, having those guys that you can go to, that you can count on, that you don't worry about being at the free throw line. And those are all things that the Indiana team just has to get cleaned up. I mean, I hate to use that phrase, but that's the long and the short of it. Can anybody beat? Who's going to win the Big Ten this year? Is Purdue going to repeat, or can Wisconsin or Illinois knock them off? Illinois just got beat, so that doesn't help their case. Wisconsin is 7-1. Their only loss, though, is to Penn State. I don't know. I haven't looked at their schedule to see if it's backloaded. And if it is, that won't be good for them because there's not a whole lot of teams that you think that would have a great shot at beating Purdue. I mean, they're going to get beat. They have been beaten, obviously, and I mistakenly said that Indiana or that Purdue won it by 3 games or by 1 game yesterday, and that was a mistake. It was 3 games that they won the league by, so I apologize for that. But
Wisconsin, you mentioned if they had a backloaded schedule, they don't really have too many. Actually, they don't play any more ranked opponents, at least current ranked opponents, on the road for the rest of the season. Their road matchups include Nebraska, Michigan, Rutgers, Iowa, Indiana. Oh, excuse me. And they finish season with Purdue. So they do have one more road matchup. And that very well could be for the Big Ten title.
We'll certainly see. It'll certainly be something. The Big Ten has gotten better. The mediocre teams are still mediocre, but there are teams that I think, ironically, that are on the bubble, like Northwestern, who I think will be a dangerous NCAA team. Are they someone that I think can make a Final Four? No. But I think that they could make life rough on somebody if they get in. Maryland is another one of those teams. They have learned to scrap and scrape and win. When you can win on the road at Illinois, when you can go to Iowa, and earlier someone said, Iowa's 12-8 or whatever, that's a great win. Yeah, it's a great win in the Big Ten, man. What I don't know what Iowa is in the net right now, but that's probably a quad 1 win.
It's Iowa's 11-8. I wouldn't say they're probably a quad 2 considering it was on the road. But Iowa being 11-8 would not be a quad.
Let's see, what's road? You have to be top 75, though, right?
It's a good question.
I
still don't think Iowa's up there because Indiana is in the above 90, and they have a better record than Iowa.
Indiana is 95th, I think.
And I know it's not all about the record, but Iowa doesn't have any good wins to show for their season either. I guess they did beat Seton Hall earlier this year, who's ended up being a decent team. But other than that, they don't really have any major wins to speak of.
Who were we just talking about?
We were talking about Maryland.
Maryland. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to quickly look through there and see if I can find where they might be. But
I gotta say, if I'm looking at each of the Big Ten teams' records right now, if I were to predict how many teams from the Big Ten make the NCAA tournament this year, if it started today, I think the Big Ten would only get 6 teams. And I think
Maryland's 66. Well,
I think those 6 teams currently would be.
But it's
Wisconsin,
Iowa.
Purdue.
It's Iowa that matters, though. Where's Iowa?
Well, we were talking about Maryland, who had beaten Iowa, and we didn't know what Iowa's ranking would be. That's what we were discussing.
Yeah. I just was wondering where Iowa was in the Ken Palm. It gives you an idea where they are in the net, because if they were a top 75, that's a quad 1 win. But I think you're right. I'm not sure. Northwestern is 56th, and they're much better off.
Anyway, let me finish who I think would currently. I don't know. I haven't looked at Mike DeCourcy's bracket forecast, but I would only put 6 Big Ten teams in today if the NCAA tournament were starting. Wisconsin, Purdue, Illinois, Northwestern, Nebraska, and Ohio State. Those are the teams that I think would have the best chance of making the tournament. Other than that, the rest would be outside looking in. Maryland, Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota. Just not a very, it's not a bad Big Ten, but it's not the Big Ten that we've grown used to over the past 3 or 4 seasons.
No, but that's partly because of college basketball is not how it has been over the last.
Yeah,
it has changed. Last year was the first extraordinarily visible sign of it, but it was when did the portal start?
That began, I think the portal and NIL began in the same season, but I don't remember.
21,
exactly
I believe, right?
Yeah, 2021 sounds correct. I can't clarify that, but that sounds correct.
So boom, 22, you have this crazy year, and that's where it starts. And I don't know that it's gonna stop. I think that the great programs are going to find a way to be what they are. Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana will eventually find its way.
1 minute.
There's no doubt. They just have too much to not get back there at some point, somehow, some way. I mean, I honestly believe that. But we've got plenty to get to tomorrow. Like we talked about, Bob Kravitz will join us. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star will join us. And Stephen Bardo will talk about the Indiana-Illinois game. And later on Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on YouTube, you can find Mike Woodson's presser, as we'll get that loaded up as soon as possible for you. Looking forward to doing it again tomorrow, and I will be out at Montverde tonight to see some future Indiana player, at least one for sure, Indiana player play, and potentially more. But we'll see what we can get done and get for you for tomorrow. But appreciate everybody on the program today. Shannon Griffith, of course, Tyler Smith, along with Chris Denari, John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines, and most importantly, you guys, because without you, we would not have the privilege of be here. And before I forget, Todd and Rebecca Hollowell from Anderson, got to meet them yesterday. They were on the plane, my plane with me. Great guy, bass fisherman, man. He's down here in a tournament. Hope he fills his tank up. Shane and Vivian here at Montverde, my Airbnb, great people, man. This is a hidden gem, and I'm not telling anybody. And Andy Bradley, met him at the airport as well. So shout out to all of you guys. Big thanks. And we're back to do this again tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.